Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Oh, good morning. So, let me tell you, oh, Amazing Stitch. Amazing Stitch. We have a good morning from Amazing Stitch. Amazing Stitch. Can you tell me if you have a first name or not? Yeah. And good morning, Doug. It's good to see you, Doug. You're the one that actually inspired um today's today's presentation. Yeah, yeah. Um, Earlier this week, I follow a couple of different groups. Earlier, Rhonda, everybody, meet Rhonda. How do you do? So glad to have you here. Frank, 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 good morning. Actually, good afternoon. Um, so yeah, earlier this week, I follow a couple of different groups, and in one of the groups, somebody had a design file where the underlay had pushed out from, um, I think that was the case, or it was an open density. Anyways, Doug had said something about using an edge run underlay with the lettering. And today I'm going to show you why an edge run underlay is not necessarily the best choice. All right. Who else have we got here? Rhonda, thank you. Thank you for joining us today. So, yeah, let's just go ahead and get into it. I have a sampler set up on my workspace. Ta-da! Um, and we're not going to work in true view today. We are going to work. We are going to work close up, and we're going to work so we can see the stitches. Alrighty? Alrighty. Sorry, did I mention that I was doing a bit of housekeeping and got caught up in that, got distracted. Okay. This this piece right here, this piece right here is about, 2.5 inches, 2.5 inch square. And it uses an edge run underlay. Oh, no, my mistake. There we go. You can see that I just changed the underlay. This is an edge run underlay. And we're going to use just strictly defaults today because, we don't, I'm going to show you when we get to the smaller pieces what happens when you change from the defaults, why, what they work and what they don't work. But in this case, this is an edge run underlay. Let's go ahead and now I've added a double tatami. For those of you that are interested, when you add a tatami under a fill, when you add a double, it actually raises the upper threads off the fabric a bit more. So you have a little bit more loft, which has a tendency to not show the fabric through as much. So on these larger pieces, an edge run underlay will work. Not a problem. Especially if it's a flat, it's not going to be a problem. Again, here we have a circle. This is about a 2.5 inch circle. And it's set up right now with a tatami. And now it has an edge run. The default for the edge run is it's about 1/3 of a millimeter in. Here. This is our margin. It's called a margin. And it's set right along this edge. It's the difference between the outer stitch edge and where the underlay starts. So if I change that from a 0.35 to a 1, now it is 1 millimeter in from that edge. And that could work here. I mean, the whole idea of an edge run underlay is to keep the stitches from pulling in more. So it kind of loses its effectiveness when you put it in really tight. So we'll go back to our 0.35. And the dots, this one, how big is this one? This is a 7 millimeter dot. Yep, 5 and 4. Edge run. That works okay on the 7 millimeter. I'm going to jump up in our visuals here. The 5 millimeter, it can handle an edge run. I believe even the 4 millimeter can handle an edge run. And again, what that's going to do, an edge run underlay under these larger pieces, is going to keep. It was explained to me years ago that the edge run underlay works like railroad tracks. You know, you got the train, it's got the wheels, and it rides the tracks, and it follows the tracks, right? The stitches in your design file ride the ride the rails, ride the rails. It stitches on the outside of this track and on the outside of this track, and it keeps them from pulling in to the inside of the tracks. Does that make sense? Let me know, Rhonda, you too. Let me know if you have any questions. I know we're focusing right now on edge run underlay, and there's a reason for that. And we'll talk about other underlays and when to use them. But for right now, where'd we go? Where do you suppose those went? Ah, there they are. I didn't go over far enough. Right now, these two use a tatami underlay, but we're going to change them to an edge run. And again, it's going to run like the tracks. And an edge run underlay can work well with a satin column if the column is wide enough. This column is 3 millimeters. You see, it's got plenty of room to hold the stitches on the tracks. All right. Now, if I take this and make it 1.5 millimeters, that edge run is still there. It's still visible. There's still some room on both sides. So it can work. That's 1.5 millimeters. But what if we take it down again? You lose the edge run underlay. It's just making 2 passes because it doesn't know that it doesn't have that room. All it knows is that it needs to be 0.35 from this edge to the center, and it goes up, and then it makes its little turn, and then it says, okay, now I got to be 0.35 from this side. So from this side to this side, and then it goes up, and then it comes back down. So it's 2 center runs, which in production is unnecessary. And because you've doubled up on those stitches going down the center, it will have a tendency to push outside the column, the stitch column. Is all of this making sense so far? Are we understanding this? I have 3 sets of text here. We're going to start with the 20 millimeter text. It's all the same word. There we are. Just different heights. The 20 millimeter, as you know, is just slightly under 2 inches tall. So again, it can handle an edge run underlay. Thank you. It can handle an edge run underlay. In this case, it uses an edge run and a zigzag. I just took the zigzag out. This is our start point. It's going to go up to the top here. Then it's going to come down, go around, come down and around. And then it's going to start stitching. Oh, thank you, Rhonda. I appreciate that. With lettering, we usually want to include a zigzag just to give a little more support. So that works for the 2 millimeter, excuse me, the 2-inch, lettering. What about the 1 inch? Let's get rid of that zigzag real quick so you can see the edge run. All right, so it's there. It's supporting. It's doing its job. It's not going to punch out. But the smaller our lettering gets, the more trouble our underlay gets. Again, this is a 5 millimeter letter. Oh, I'm sorry. Actually, it's a 7. But there's really no room for an edge run underlay. And with that, it's going to pop out. It's going to pop out. It makes its curve, and then it comes back, and then it's going to make its stitches all the way around. Well, the stitches are not going to think to themselves, oh, I have to be on that side of the underlay. They're going to land where the pattern, where the design file tells them to land. And if there's been some pull between the time that it does the underlay and the time that it starts to zigzag, it's going to land on the wrong side of the underlay. So with your the point being, the whole point of all of this is to explain that small letters, and we're looking at like 5 millimeter. In this case, this is a double check 7 millimeter. Anything under that 7 millimeter is not going to handle an edge run underlay. It's a waste of stitches, and it's a risk of having the underlay pop out. So we're going to change this to a center run. Looks much cleaner. It's going to give us our underlay, because that's what the foundation does, so that we can support our upper threads, and it's not going to pop out from underneath. Okay, so what do you use? What kind of underlay do you use? Well, we already talked about these small letters should pretty much stay 7 millimeters and smaller. Stick with just a center run underlay. when I have, where'd they go again? You know me, I never know where anything is on my screen. Okay, so here is the guideline. And we all know that a guideline is just that. It's a start point. You're going to do your own testing. You're going to create your own design files. You're going to experiment with your own underlay. Guidelines. And if I have a column, hey Jesse, good morning. Glad to see you here today. If I have a column, oh, come on, let me have that. If I have a column that is 8 millimeters, 8 millimeters wide, maybe I should change that from the word column to a stitch area. If I have a stitch area that is 8 millimeters wide, we know that that's kind of the, without any kind of extra support underneath, like 3D foam, we know that 8 millimeters is about our max. Let's change our density a bit so that you can see this. There we go. If I have a column that is 12 millimeters, or excuse me, 8 millimeters wide, or stitch area that is 8 millimeters wide or more, we can use an edge run underlay. Again, it will help control the outside stitches, where the outside stitches land. We can also use a tatami underlay. Let's see if we can get this a little bit larger. All right, so here's our edge run underlay, which works great for satin columns. We can also add a zigzag for our satin column, but this isn't a satin column. Let's call this a tatami stitch. And come along, little doggy, where you going? Let's make it an inch wide. Now it's a tatami stitch, and it's an inch wide. Oops, wrong one. Give it back. Thank you. And the edge run is going to work well here, but we're not going to get a lot of support in here because we have a zigzag. So we're going to want to change that from a zigzag underlay to the tatami, which again is an underlay that goes at an angle to the actual stitches. So if my stitches are a 15-degree angle, where is it? A 15-degree angle. My tatami is going to go at an opposite angle of 135, which is good because then we have support. Of course, we can double that underlay and we'll get a 15-degree and a 135. Alrighty? So if your design file if your design file uses a stitch area of 8 millimeters or more, look at the tatami stitches. All right, that's my guideline. If that stitch area is less than 8 millimeters, let me just phrase anything tatami, use your tatami underlays. You're not going to, because there's multiple stitches in that span, you're going to want multiple underlay. And the only way you can get that is with the tatami underlay. But if we move over into a satin column, and again, let me just change that. And again, we want to change our angle. Okay. So if my column is between 5 and 8 millimeters, I will use an edge run and a zigzag. The zigzag just supports, just gives me additional support across the center. I can use a tatami. Oh, actually, it's not an option here. I could use a tatami, but it's unnecessary stitch penetrations to get from the left to the right to the left to the right. I can use a double zigzag to, again, give more loft, which will give you more of an arch in your satin. But if we take this down to 4 millimeters, I will not use, even though a 4 millimeter satin can use an edge run, I don't use an edge run in a 4 millimeter from 4 to um, from 4 to 8. I use a zigzag. Let's get rid of that one. There we go. And anything 2 millimeters and under, I use strictly a center run. Again, those are guidelines. Just a place to start. Someplace. Oh, how did I lose you guys? Did you see that last bit? Oh, I am technically challenged, right? Um, good morning, Letty. Letty is here. Good morning. Um, so obviously I dumped my shared screen. Thanks, Jesse. So you didn't see that. I don't know how far back to go, but here, let's just do this. From thanks, Letty. From 1 millimeter to 3 millimeters, I use a center run. 3 millimeters to 5, 6, I will use a zigzag. Anything in a satin column, anything over 6 millimeters, up to our max, about 8, 9, I'll use an edge run and possibly a double zigzag, depending on the look I'm after. Anything over 8 millimeters turns into a tatami stitch, and I use a tatami underlay for that. So, any questions about underlay and why we're not going to use an edge run underlay under most small lettering? And of course, you're going to want to always test stitch. Always run a sample. Whatever you're doing, run a sample. Use the same type of stabilizer and fabric, and of course, needle and thread that you plan to use in your final project. Doug, are you still here? Doug, did that make sense for you? If he's still here. So while we're just kind of hanging out, let me just tell you, Letty, Letty has been sharing pictures of her new studio, and we're so excited for her. She has moved from her home studio to a commercial brick and mortar space, much more room, looks really nice. She's been working really hard at it. Um, I'm excited to see more pictures. Excited to find out. Right now, she's got an air conditioning issue. There's no air conditioning, but that's on its way, I'm sure, to be repaired. Let's see what else is there going on. Oh, this is the first week of August. August. Do you know what that means? It means we're on the downside of this year. We're heading into the Christmas season. Who's ready for that? Who's ready for that? I know, Letty. I'm so excited, Letty. Cindy says to congratulate Letty, and so does Jesse. Yeah. Okay. So I think that's about it. I'll hang out for just another minute, see if you guys have any questions. Um, underlay. Underlay. Not ready. Rhonda says she's not ready. Um, so just remember, underlay is like the foundation to your building. Letty, it is going to be awesome. Very much so. I think I got company coming. Come along. You coming over or what? No? All right. Baby kitty. We have three cats. We have Carly, who does not have a nickname. We have Chloe, whose nickname is Big Kitty. She's up there sleeping. And you just saw the ears of Baby Kitty, who is also known as Tori. Let's see. Oh, you're welcome, Cindy. Cindy says she's working in the shop, so she's been listening. Um, and to thank me for being here. Thank you. Thank you all. All right. I'm going to go ahead and sign off. Let me find my tunes. You
Wasn't
guys,
that fun? Do you have more questions? Do you want to learn something new? Join me at quicktostitch.com for coffee and conversation, and we'll talk about it. Embroidery machines, designs, and business. Hope to see you soon. Bye now.